Hi everyone, welcome back to NLTI. I am Manish Gupta, the founder of National Law Training Institute and a recent graduate of the National Law School of India, University, Bangalore. I gave CLAT in 2021 and got an All India rank of 17. And since that time and even before that, CLAT has been consistently evolving. In that pursuit, yesterday at around 11:30, 12 o'clock, CLAT Consortium released a new press release in which they discussed the much talked about expert committee report that was pending with them for the last 5 to 6 months. So what is the expert committee report? What does it have to say? A lot of you might have had sleepless night last night, but I am here today to discuss everything in detail so that you don't have to read the 80-page long expert committee report that was released last night. I will discuss everything, the implications for CLAT 2027 aspirants, the new pattern for CLAT 2028 aspirants, and everything you need to know about the expert committee report and anything associated with it. So what is changing and why? A complete breakdown of the CLAT expert committee report. One thing that you need to know, that the reforms will apply from CLAT 2028 and not 2027. So if you have been preparing for CLAT for the last 7-8 months, based on the same pattern as for the last 4-5 years, you do not have anything to worry about. जिस पैटर्न पे आपने अभी तक तैयारी की है, हमें उसी पैटर्न को और स्ट्रॉन्ग करना है, क्योंकि पैटर्न बिल्कुल चेंज नहीं हो रहा है. बट वन थिंग दैट इज फॉर श्योर इज दैट द पेपर विल बी ऑफ हाई क्वालिटी दिस ईयर. पेपर का डिफिकल्टी लेवल भी थोड़ा ज़्यादा होगा एंड पेपर के बाद कोई लिटिगेशन नहीं होने वाली है, क्योंकि पेपर एरर फ्री बनाने जाएगा कंसोर्टियम. It will be unambiguous and it will be free of any errors and it will be of high quality. क्योंकि जो reforms हैं, reforms point towards better quality questions and error-free paper. Even though the pattern change will be applicable from CLAT 28 onwards, everything else about the paper that is error-free, unambiguous and of high quality and high level of difficulty will be applicable from this year. तो अगर अभी तक आप प्रिपेयर कर रहे हो, आपको सेम पैटर्न पर प्रिपेयर करना है, बट अपनी प्रिपरेशन को और ज़्यादा इंप्रूव करना है, क्योंकि पेपर का लेवल अच्छा आने वाला है. Now, important update before we start. तो पहले जब एक्सपर्ट कमेटी बनी थी, जब कॉन्स्टिट्यूट हुई थी, तो यही बोला गया था कि जो भी रिफॉर्म्स होंगे वो CLAT 2027 ऑनवर्ड्स इंप्लीमेंट किए जाएंगे. बट क्योंकि CLAT कंसोर्टियम ने इस रिपोर्ट पर एक्ट करने में इतना ज़्यादा टाइम लगा दिया, इट्स बीन पेंडिंग विद देम फॉर द लास्ट 6 to 7 months. What is now clear and what has been made clear by the consortium in their recent press release is that there will be no change in the CLAT 2027 paper. There will be no change. It will be same as before. So the timeline has been revised and the reformed exam will now be implemented in CLAT 2028 examination. So the actual timeline is that from CLAT 2028 जो रिफॉर्म्स एक्चुअली में सिग्निफिकेंट रिफॉर्म्स प्रपोज हुए हैं वो अगले साल से ही इंप्लीमेंट होंगे. इस साल एस्पिरेंट्स यू आर सेफ, यू डू नॉट हैव टू वरी अबाउट इट बिकॉज यू हैव बीन प्रिपेयरिंग बेस्ड ऑन द सेम पैटर्न फॉर लास्ट 6-7 months. You do not have to change one bit about your preparation, just that the paper will be difficult, it will be of very high quality, so you need to improve whatever you are doing. You need to improve your logical thinking and you need to improve your reading speed and reading comprehension abilities. So what was this expert committee? तो पिछले साल इतने सारे स्कैंडल्स होने के बाद CLAT में फॉर द लास्ट ईयर एंड द लास्ट ईयर एक एक्सपर्ट कमेटी बनाई गई थी विद लीगल ल्यूमिनरीज अक्रॉस द वर्ल्ड. वी हैड प्रोफेसर देव गोंगजी, वी हैड श्याम कृष्ण बालगणेश फ्रॉम कोलंबिया लॉ स्कूल, वी हैड प्रोफेसर सुरभि रंगनाथन फ्रॉम यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ कैम्ब्रिज, वी हैड प्रोफेसर तरुण खतान who is co-convener at the LSE, that is London School of Economics in England, and we had Professor Pritam Barua, who is the Dean of the School of Law at BML Munjal University. So you can see that the committee was very diverse, of very high quality, and people who have been experts in their subject matters in the field of law. So what was the process? 15 September को कमेटी कॉन्स्टिट्यूट हुई थी. पब्लिक कंसल्टेशन विंडो हुआ था from 15 October to 4 November. There was an interim report presented by the committee and then the final recommendations were presented on 14th of January and the report was submitted to the consortium on 2nd of February. So you can see from February to almost July, it's been 5 to 6 months that the report has been pending. The consortium did not act on it, or even if they were acting on it, they failed to inform us earlier. But it's still a good enough thing that they informed us 4-5 months prior to the paper that you can be sure that there will be no pattern change or no syllabus change for CLAT 2027. Why reform is needed? So the committee report has extensively discussed why was there a need of reform in the first place. And why was there a need? Because there have been repeated litigations. For example, the Disha Panchal 2018 case and the Siddhi Sandeep Ladda case of 2025. Courts ordered question withdrawn. Courts ordered that some questions need to be withdrawn and results need to be revised. So there have been repeated litigations in the exam that is meant for law students themselves. So it's the biggest irony that CLAT was dealing with for the last 2-3 years. So the committee said to avoid any repeated litigation, there is a need for reform. Secondly, the committee called out the consortium's callous and casual drafting. The Supreme Court expressed deep anguish at how questions were being framed. And the committee report touches on it and says that the question quality is subpar. It does not match with the standards set by international examinations like LSAT, LNAT, and other examinations for admissions in US law schools or London law schools. So they said that the questions were subpar and the drafting was very callous and casual. Third, the need for reform was that there were no changes despite orders. The court noted no reform had followed multiple prior directions. So the Supreme Court had on multiple occasions told the consortium that there is an urgent need of reform, but there was nothing at all done from the consortium side. So now the reform was impending and had to be taken up urgently. Finally, another reason why reform was necessary, that there was rotating convenership, that every year a different NLU conducted the paper, a different NLU made the paper, so there was no institutional memory or accountability. Because even though last year there was so much hue and cry about the paper, and last to last year also there was so much hue and cry, the CLAT consortium is not taking any accountability, and the individual NLU also is not taking accountability. So unless there is one proper figure to whom accountability can be attached, for example NTA for NEET, there is not going to be any real sense of accountability. So that is why we need an urgent reform in the CLAT examination, so that we could account any mistakes every year. Now, so let's discuss the current UG CLAT pattern. There are 5 sections, 5 problems. Let's discuss each and every problem that the consortium, the expert committee, has raised in its expert report. So English language, they said that answers are often findable verbatim in the passage. So that means that almost all the time passages have the answers given in the passages themselves. And the skills that is being tested is not your English comprehension or reading speed or ability, but it's simply textual mapping, that you see where the particular answer is located in a particular passage. Then for the GK section, the problem is that it swings between trivial recall and obscure trivia, biased or error-ridden passages. Sometimes the passages are obscure and error-ridden. Sometimes the questions are full of errors, or sometimes the answer options are full of error. And sometimes it swings between trivial recall, that it does not matter whether if it is even relevant for the CLAT exam or for you as lawyers. It just asks the questions out of nowhere. In legal reasoning, the problem is that it mostly tests your reading comprehension, not an application of legal principles. Logical reasoning में problem ये है कि it is full of ambiguous phrasing and multiple plausible answers that undermine the reliability of the paper. And about quantitative techniques, they had said that it's the most consistent section but narrow and repetitive in skills tested. The expert committee highlighted that for the last few years, the topics that are coming in the paper are the same. It's ratio, proportion, percentages and averages, and it's not high level skill maths. So that is why they've said that even though it's the most consistent section, we need to expand it and broaden the horizon. For example, they have given examples also in the expert committee report how the passages are problematic. So this is a question from the logical reasoning section. The statement is that an engagement with words is the most captivating, enchanting and sometimes daunting encounter with the world. Which conclusion can be drawn from the above statement? Option 1, words can be used to manipulate others. The power of words should be used carefully. Words can capture the atrocities of the world. Words can paint a picture of the world in all its different colors. Even though the marked option is D, all answer options A to C are equally defensible. Like, you can argue that even A is correct, B is correct and C is correct. So that is why the expert committee has highlighted that all these answer options are very ambiguous. And this is the main problem with the logical reasoning section, that there is so much ambiguity, and this ambiguity is systemic. And unless there is a broad reform that is happening, these issues will not go away. So as a result, the consortium the expert committee has recommended these reforms. So the current framework rewards legal and general knowledge, but the new framework will reward your logical reasoning and legal aptitude, no longer your general knowledge. The current framework rewards your speed because you have to answer 120 questions in 120 minutes. So this is a game of speed as well. But the proposed framework will reward your thoughtfulness and your application and will not reward your speed. Current framework rewards your breadth of study, but the new statement will reward your depth of study. It will not matter how many GK topics you have covered, but how well do you know the theories, how well do you know the legal principles, that will be tested. Rote learning and prior coaching. So the expert committee has also highlighted the role of coaching in the paper, and they have said that the new proposed framework will not require coaching anymore. That is obviously a false statement, because people will require coaching, especially if the paper pattern is getting shifted, if the paper is coming in a new pattern. There is no resource for people to rely on, so they will rely on coaching mocks. But yeah, they are saying that it will require your intellectual ability instead of any prior knowledge. Now also the current framework rewards your luck and stylistic expressive fluency, but the new framework will reward your functional literacy and your genuine ability to answer the questions, and not luck. So the new structure consequent to the reforms projected earlier is this, that the current affairs section will be deleted, English section will remain as it is. So the new framework is that instead of 5 sections, there will now be 3 sections. Your logical reasoning and your legal reasoning will be combined into one, and that will become, so these 2 sections will become your logical reasoning and legal aptitude, just like your ALET examination. It also has this combined section. Your language and comprehension will remain intact, and your quantitative techniques will also remain intact, but with high level maths, with skill level maths, and not just your ratio, proportion, percentages and averages. So what will section 1 look like? It will test your deductive and inductive reasoning. You have to apply rules to facts and derive rules from facts. All questions will be strictly hypothetical, answer only from the information given. For example, CLAT 21, 22, all questions were passage based and fact based. Similarly, this 28 onwards, all questions will be hypothetical, and there will be no current legal knowledge or static legal knowledge that will be asked, like the paper in 2026. No prior legal knowledge required or even helpful. It may actually mislead candidates. Section 2, that is language and comprehension, it will test your tone, argument evaluation and inference, not grammar or vocabulary. It will you need to prioritize contextual meaning over literal meaning, and the passages will be drawn from literature, journalism and multi-voice debates. And finally, your section 3, that is maths, it will be retained as a standalone section, reasoning with numbers, not advanced maths, but there will be new top subjects like data sufficiency. There will be new topics like conceptual numeracy, word problems on ratio, rates, proportions applied to everyday scenarios, and then there will also be representational logic, for example, LSAT styles of logical reasoning and maths that is asked. For example, a 3-day Italy trip in which there are 4 adults spend 600 on spaghetti. What would 7 adults spend on a 5-day trip at the same rate per person per day? These are the types of questions that you would be asked. One important thing that you need to know is that there was also a discussion on introducing a subjective component, कि पेपर में सिर्फ MCQ नहीं होंगे, पेपर में अब essay component भी होगा alongside MCQ. You also have to write an essay, but the consortium has put it on hold for now. It was considered but not yet recommended. It will not be introduced for CLAT 28. 2 feasibility problems, that objectivity hard to grade fairly at scale because there are 80,000 aspirants and it will be difficult to grade everyone's essay, and volumes, tens of thousands of essays to evaluate. And also one more thing is that if there are so many evaluators, how would we ensure objectivity? Because one evaluator might mark you very low, one evaluator might mark you very high. So how to ensure objectivity? These were the 2 problems that were discussed. So that is why an essay component has been put on hold. But future CLAT aspirants, CLAT 29 and 30, be aware that this is a possibility that could be introduced at your time. So proposed roadmap, you have to revisit after 3 years, choice of 3 to 4 prompts, answer in less than 600 words, shared rubric of arguments rejoinder for graders, only MCQ used for global shortlist, and each NLU marks essays locally but via a preference order. Next thing also that the expert committee has recommended is that they need to fix how the paper gets made, and there was a discussion on 2 feasible options. Firstly, that you hire or outsource the paper setting to an external agency. In this, a tender process for firms with standardized testing design expertise will be shared. The paper will be modeled on LNAT, like for example, the LNAT paper is set by Pearson VUE. Similarly, they are now exploring Indian agencies that could set the paper for them, outsourcing the paper basically. Initial terms of 3 to 5 years, then reviewed, NTA considered but not endorsed. Thankfully, they considered NTA but did not go ahead with it because of the recent fallacies with the NTS conduction. Option 2 that was discussed is that they will build internal expertise. They will hire and recruit qualified exam setters directly into the secretariat of the consortium. It will take time to build. It is a medium to long term play. Suggested path is that you start with option 1, you outsource the paper setting to another organization and transition to option 2 once capacity exists. So this year, so that is CLAT 2028, you can expect an external agency to set the paper for you instead of the NLU. Governance, ending the annual reset. Okay, another thing that was discussed is that there needs to be permanent structures, not rotating convenership like this. It has been happening this year, that every year a new NLU gets elected as the convener of the CLAT exam. They said that we need to stop that. We need to have permanent structures, and for that you can have rotating convenership for the CLAT consortium, but for the conduction of CLAT exam there needs to be permanent structures, and for that they have recommended the introduction of a CLAT exam board which will review drafts in 2 rounds and which will have mix of ex officio and fixed term members. Second reform is that they will have a strengthened secretariat. It will be staffed to support fee, access reform, scholarships and long-term projects. Thirdly, we will have confidentiality by design. There will be clear protocols to protect paper security through drafting and review. And finally, they will introduce SOPs, that is standard operating procedures, in which they will document every process, every chain of command and grievance redressal. This is the real rollout timeline. The reforms will begin in 2028, giving the consortium a full extra year to test and prepare. So the report has been published and all the stakeholders can see the report. Tenders will be invited to prepare the exam paper. Sample paper will be released, don't worry about it. Sample papers will be released for the examination, and CLAT 2028 will be the first exam that will be conducted with 3 sections in your UG exam, that is logical, legal combined, English comprehension and quantitative techniques. So bottom line is that if you're targeting CLAT, this new format affects the 2028 exam onward, not 2027. So finally, to summarize everything, based on the expert committee report, from 2028 onwards, we will have 3 sections instead of 5. There will be aptitude, a focus on aptitude over recall. There will be professional exam setting, and everything will be effective from 2028. But one thing that CLAT 2027 aspirants please note is that the paper level is going to become better this year. It will be error free, it will be unambiguous, and the level of difficulty will also be higher compared to last year's. Primarily, the consortium wants actual sincere students who have worked hard throughout the year to get into their dream law schools, because for the last couple of years, CLAT became more of a luck game, that if sometimes the passages sometimes the questions came directly from the passages, especially GK. Sometimes the topics were so random that even if you had not given your best, you still were able to crack it. But from this year onwards, one thing is that this is the bottom line, that only if you have been preparing for quite some time and if you give your best for the next 4 or 5 months, you prepare very hard, you prepare very sincerely, only then you will be able to crack your dream law school. So that is it from this video. Please let us know in the comment section if anything is unclear, and we will make another video on that to explain everything in detail. Feel free to reach out to our counseling numbers in case you want to discuss anything in particular. But that's it for this video for now. All the best for your CLAT preparation, and we are always there by your side to help you decode everything that the CLAT consortium does. All the best.